So when an anime, a manga, or even a light novel drags on for far too long, you slowly start to see it deteriorate over time as the story drags on for far too long, the characters start to seem uninteresting, the plot just seems to go absolutely nowhere, and it starts to become a terrible, terrible series. One of the best examples is Jujika no Rokunin, literally one of the most interesting and probably a very intense revenge story, but dragged on for far too long and literally just became a body horror manga with seemingly no plot whatsoever. Yes, there was a plot, but it just felt like it was just doing too much for too much sake. But a series that does this and doesn't seem to bother me even after reaching its final conclusion with a certain arc, which pretty much wraps up the entire story, would be none other than the Monogatari series. And this series is absolutely phenomenal. Only that it's pretty controversial in the things that people don't like what they see, as well as not having an English dub and having to focus on what's going on in the background, as well as reading and keeping up with the subtitles. Yeah, this series is definitely not for a newbie anime watcher. I know I don't really like saying that at all, but literally, if you're not used to watching anime with subtitles, as well as not being used to seeing the things that happen regularly and 80% of the stuff that you do see in general anime and manga, you're not going to like this series, which is not a bad thing. You don't have to like Monogatari, you don't have to like any of the characters, but it is unfortunate that you are missing out on one of the greatest stories ever told in the format of a light novel, as well as beautifully displayed within an animation. Because holy crap, dude, this series has done so many experimental things just make me like rewind and want to rewatch the entire thing from start to finish, because so many things happen and it's just so awe-inspiring, not only because of the story, not only because of every individual character, but as well as the animation alone. Studio Shaft did a phenomenal freaking job when it came to animating Monogatari, and I don't really think that there could ever be another series just like this one. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, why does this series not get an English dub? Well, there are so many things that go along within this story that could only be actually said and heard in Japanese. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, well, if there are subtitles, why not English? Well, because a lot of the things are just not going to sound very well when it's translated into English. It's probably a little bit easier to read, but when it comes out of the tongue of an English person speaking, a lot of the stuff are going to sound rough, because there are a lot of puns within this story, a lot of jokes that only make sense when reading it or maybe just hearing it in Japanese. And a lot of the things are just very traditional for only the Japanese culture, that's going to be hard to translate in any other culture, not just exclusively for English. So it's going to be a very difficult time. Now, I know that there's probably even more of an explanation as to why this won't get an English dub, like licensing and all that stuff as well. But that is one of the main core reasons as to why it will never get an English dub, despite it being a very popular anime slash light novel series. Now, I know I got a little sidetracked here, but why am I bringing this series up? Why is there so much attention to it right now after its original ending, right at the end of Owarimonogatari, which essentially wraps up the entire arc of Araragi, who is the main character within this series? Well, that has to do with the newly or more recent series, that being Off and Monster Season, which we did get in the summer season of 2024, which is absolutely phenomenal and ran through October. So this was a pretty lengthy season with a lot of side stories that are absolutely amazing, because every single character, again, is very well written, and who doesn't want to see more of their adventures or more of their lore? It is so freaking good, to the point where it doesn't even bother me that it feels like, for some people, dragging on the entire series. But getting sidetracked here again, there are pretty recent news regarding this entire series, and one of them is with this post right here, pretty much saying that Monogatari series Off and Monster Season anime continues with Karen Ogre arc next winter. And we get a teaser visual right here of Karen, one of Araragi's little sisters. So we're still getting new content for Off and Monster Season, and this one is obviously focusing on Karen. We might see a little bit more of the other little sister, which is my favorite one, because she also has the opening for Planet Disco, which is a 10 out of 10 opening. If you haven't heard it, highly recommend giving it a hear and a watch, because it's pretty addicting to see that dance over and over and over again. But wait, there is more, because not only are we getting new content for Monogatari in the form of an anime, but as well as the light novel, which is the main source material. And as you can tell on this post right here, a new Monogatari novel has been revealed. Owarimonogatari by Nisoisen and illustrated by Vofan, the original author and the original illustrator for the main series. And as you can tell by this visual right here, we have Yotsugi in the cover page of the light novel, which is absolutely amazing. So yeah, we can expect more content, not only in the form of a light novel, but as well as additional more content within the anime. And all I gotta say is, man, this is absolutely a big W for fans of the Monogatari series, as well as myself. As you can tell right behind me, I do have almost, if not all, of the light novels, but that's going to continue to grow because of the information that I'm pretty much displaying to you right now. Now, honestly, I really don't know the lengths of how long this series is going to run for. I really do wish that it doesn't get to the point where once the story starts to dip, they'll continue dragging it on. I really do think that there is a solid conclusion in which the story can reach, and I hope that once the author does find it, he ends it then and there. Because I mean, honestly, as much as I really do love this series, and as much as I do enjoy watching new content, especially like this one right here, eventually I would want it to end, because I don't want like a repeat of One Piece where I'm gonna have to watch like countless and thousands of episodes, and eventually at some point maybe have to do another freaking watch order of, you know, you got to read this light novel first and then this one and this one because they put it out in different order. I just don't want that to happen, and I don't want this series to gain the reputation that One Piece does and potentially even make it worse with its confusing watch order. So again, I really do love this series, and I really do wish that at some point it does reach its final conclusion, not only with Araragi because that already happened, but with every other character within this series as well. I mean, we still have a lot to uncover, but either way, it's still damn cool that we are getting content nonetheless. But anyways, let me know down in the comments what y'all think about Monogatari. If you've watched it, let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed it and if you loved it or if you hated it. And if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend. Again, this series does not have an English dub, so if you are an English dub watcher, fortunately, you're gonna have to learn how to read subtitles really fast because the dialogue within the series moves pretty quick. If you're at a beginner level with subtitles, polish up on your skills on reading. If you're an intermediate, again, polish it a little bit more because you need to be at an expert level to just maybe even glance at the subtitles and then fully retain what's happening and then enjoy the visuals afterwards. Or if you want to rewatch it all over again and get the final, like get the gist of what's happening, rewatch the episode and then enjoy the visuals the second time around and not focus on the subtitles like you did in the first time around. But yeah, that's all I really got to say. Let me know down in the comments what y'all think about this. Anyways, y'all have a wonderful freaking day. Appreciate y'all for making it this far into the video. And if you have, why not drop a like and subscribe, as that does help around the channel a lot. Anyways, y'all have a wonderful freaking day, and I'll see y'all next time. Adios, guys.